Well, good morning to you. How are you? Sometimes I get tired of asking good morning, and because I believe that we are evolutionary beings. And so if we've already said it's a good morning, then what's next? So I try ecstatic morning to you, or unbelievably paralleled experience to you. And what I know is that's what is offered us this morning. And I just want to pause and give thanks to Reverend Aaron, and I also want to give thanks to every single person who operates as staff here. Now, for someone who travels or who has traveled for many, many years, you run across all churches, all situations. You guys get what I call an A+ on your report card in terms of just love and honor. I couldn't have felt more at home walking in here, and everything from almost wanting to shine my shoes. It was just amazing. So thank you so much. And greetings from my current residence of Atlanta, Georgia. We call ourselves Hotlanta, and we have nothing on you guys. So I'm ready to bequeath that title to Kansas City. I don't know about you, but I did not grow up in New Thought. How many of you actually did grow up in New Thought? A couple, yeah, but it's wide-ranging. And so what happened to those who didn't grow up in New Thought? How did we find ourselves in this chair this morning? I call it divine discontent. And that is a phrase that's been used by a lot of our forebearers, a lot of philosophers and sages long before me. And divine discontent describes that moment in our lives where we go, I don't know about this. I don't know. This isn't quite working for me. And that divine discontent started when I was a teenager back in Beaumont, Texas, in First Assemblies of God. Hallelujah. Now, don't get me wrong. As a person who loves production, it was very theatrical background. How many of you grew up in sort of a Pentecostal, we had a preacher that would go like that. And as soon as he did that whole side of the room, it's your responsibility to start moving and shaking. So when you're a kid growing up, it's like, ooh, this is awesome. But by the time I was a teenager, and by the time I really started to listen, it was hard for me to accept and to digest this message that inherently I was not enough, that I was born of this thing that they called a sin, and that I was going to have to spend the remainder of my years trying to earn my right into something that was futurized, a heaven that was futurized. Now, granted, having grown up in that environment, like so many of us, I didn't know anything differently. I just knew that the divine discontent was there. And so I had to begin to honor that. And I had to begin to listen to that. And I had to plot my exit. So as a 15, 16-year-old, I began to plot my exit. And in doing so, I reflected on this whole life of growing up in that town and growing up in that environment. I grew up as again, not unusual, but in a place of very little means. And it was a place of ignorance and poverty and some abuse associated with that. And so my escape was a mimosa tree. Do you know what a mimosa tree is? The kind with the pink blossoms? In Beaumont, Texas, in my little postage stamp-sized yard was a mimosa tree. And I would shimmy up this tree day after day. And that's where I began my self-assessment or my education. And one of the things that would accompany me up this tree were books. You see, I had a bicycle with a rusted basket on the front. And even at the age of 5 and 6, I found my way to the community library where I had a reputation. Because I would go in, I was a little nerd kid, and I would beg them to let me check out more books than I was allotted. And they had a young readers series that was all based upon the autobiographies of people who had changed the world. And so it was my goal to read every single one of them. And there were just shelves and shelves of these books. And so they would let me, over the course of many years, take out 6, 7 at a time. I'd put them in the basket. I would pedal all the way across town back home, and up the mimosa tree I would go, where I would read the lives of George Washington Carver and Walt Disney and Harriet Tubman and Abner Doubleday, the inventor of baseball. And I would read every single story I could get my hands on. And what I began to find up in that tree was a common theme among all of these people. And it was adversity. It was this thing in their life where their path was obstructed. But the common theme continued, whereby they didn't let that obstruction stop them. There was a stick-to-itiveness. There was a determination. There was something inside of them that beckoned them, that urged them to continue to go forward. In fact, my assessment was that they couldn't go on with life unless they did do that. And I would lose myself in the pages of these stories. And something began to happen. I began to do what I call self-identify with those stories, meaning that as I would read their lives and their struggles, I would self-identify with them. And I said, wow, if they can surpass this, so can I. And I sort of started this dialogue of, why not me? In other words, why not me? If they can create this victory, if they can overcome these obstacles, why not me? And how many of us operate consistently, sustainably from that energy of why not me? Because what I see and what I've gone through back and forth in my life is a lot of why me? Why me? As if we are at the mercy of this world of effect. And I came into full realization of this on a trip home to Beaumont, Texas many years ago, and I drove past this very dicey neighborhood, and I went to that house, and I looked at that thing, that place where so many children had grown up in this house, and the mimosa tree still stood before a subsequent hurricane took it out. And I parked my car, and I looked at that tree, and I thought, wow, when I was a little kid, I remembered who I was. I love the metaphor of up, climbing the mountain. You know, when you read in the Bible about all of these wise teachers going up to the mountain, metaphorically, it's about going to that place, that higher realm of consciousness. And so when I was up there and I felt safe, then I could remember who I was. I could say, why not me? But what happens when we're up there? Eventually what? Eventually, your mother, by the name of Genevieve, goes, David, and screams at dusk for you to come down because they can't find you. And you enter back into the realm of the effect or the world, where sometimes we then venture into, why me? Why me? And so it's remembering and forgetting. Remembering and forgetting. And what I realize in our life is that the only way for us to increase that time of remembering is through our journey of spiritual practice, of being able to show up each and every day understanding that we live in the realm of the infinite. I've been meditating for the past year and a half on the word infinite, realizing that myself, I haven't even come close to understanding what that word means. And yet when I also ask myself, why am I here? Why are you here, David? I realize that I am here to be a vehicle by which the infinite chooses to express. And the more that I tap into and explore my infinite nature, the more what? The infinite gets to express. And so I realize that there is no cap, there is no ceiling. There is nothing that is limitless unless I limit it. One of the teachers that I studied religiously, Ernest Holmes, said, we have the capability of taking something that is infinite and making it finite through our choices and our decisions and our beliefs. And so my journey has been to explore more and more about what the infinite means. And so I love spiritual practice. And I love the fact that you and I have an opportunity to lighten up over our spiritual practice. Because when I say, okay, you must meditate and put your leg behind your ear and hold in that position for 30 minutes, otherwise you will not receive enlightenment. No, what I know is that the voice of the infinite can greet you and meet you right where you are, if you are receptive and open to it. So I began to develop all kinds of applications. And I teach spiritual application because I believe that truth is a beautiful, amazing thing, but unless we apply it, then it remains in the realm of concept. It remains up here, and it's never fully integrated into application. And you and I are here to apply it. So I went back to the why not me? And I began to do this thing. I began to look at my world. And when I saw what I determined to be success, now remember that's subjective, right? What is successful for you might not necessarily be successful for another person. But when you own the fact that success exists out there, when I see it, then I would do this. Why not me? I would self-identify, just like I would with the pages in those autobiographies. I would say, why not me? If they can create that for themselves, what does that mean for me? So can I. Because do you believe that there's a limit for success? Do you honestly believe that? Because if you are willing to let go of that effect, then that means that there is nothing outside of us, that can stop the experience of what that means for you. Nothing except what? Our own being, our own focus, our own belief system. So I would look at success and I'd go, why not me? Why not me? When I would see what I would call optimum health, and again, that's very subjective, right? I would look at that and I would do what I call tagging. Tagging is just an acronym for me for Thanksgiving, appreciation, and gratitude. I would tag it, just like that childhood game. And I would say, why not me? If they can achieve optimum health, regardless of their circumstance, regardless of their age, then why not me? Why not me? And now here's the beauty of that. When you are doing that as a spiritual practice and you're committed to that, you play around with it, the longer that you do that, the longer that you stay devoted to that pinpointed attention, we understand spiritual law to do what? To reciprocate in kind. Because the more you focus on that, the more you receive that. The more we focus on the not having of that, the more we experience not having that. Kind of fun, huh? Kind of isn't it? Because, oh my God, you have to cut up your membership card to Club Blame. It's no longer valid. As a metaphysician, you and I do not have the luxury to do that, as much as we might want to go back there. So when you look out there, and let's say that one of your desires is this beautiful, intimate relationship, this soul connection, and you see people out in the world and they're going, oh, Schnooky Yookums, I love you, and you're like, get a room. But inside, there is something that is longing for that same kind of connection. Why then can't you and I go, why not me? Why not me? If they can create that, and I'm living in this world of the infinite, then why not me? So I'm here this morning to plant that seed for you, to ask you, to implore, to explore with you where it is that you have given up. Because you and I were not meant to live back burner lives. I don't care your age. I don't care your economic bracket. As much as I appreciate your path and your history, I'm not really interested in the story, because the story does not define you. Because you are this vehicle by which the infinite is choosing to express. And right in this moment, right here, today, now, we have the opportunity to set that motion, to move in a propulsion forward in order for it to be so. What does it require? It requires spiritual practice. It's amazing, isn't it, that as spiritual beings we have requirements. We have requirements on this planet. In order for us to fully experience who and what we are, there are requirements. And that requirement is to honor yourself. Many years ago, it's almost been 30 years now, I had the privilege to begin this journey of New Thought with a beautiful soul by the name of Louise Hay. And Louise was just getting started. And we were all in Hollywood, and we were exploring, and she would do on Wednesday nights what she called the hay ride. And what I loved about that time period was it was my first foray into New Thought. It was the first thing that I had found after I had rejected the old dogma of my past. And the message was very simple. Louise would say this: where you are right now in this moment is enough. Simple. Something all of you have entertained. Something all of you have meditated on. But to understand that that is it. I come across people so often that if transformation were difficult, they would be fully transformed. The fact that it's so simple is what gets in the way. Please give me steps 1 through 16 and I can do this. But for them to understand and simply know that their job is to accept and to understand that they are worthy. When Louise became, it definitely was not an overnight success. There were many years in the making. But when her first book really took off and we began to travel, I observed. And what I kept observing over and over again was the individual's resistance to accept their worthiness. As much as we talk about this, you realize it's not going to go very far until we have sustained that foundation of worthiness. Until we remove the badge that we have pinned on ourselves that is associated with some fumble or bumble in the past. You are here right now in this moment to accept your worthiness. No one can do that for us. And so that is our one requirement. And when we move forward and when we begin to self-identify with the infinite possibilities that are out there, then beautiful things begin to occur. Years ago when I was traveling full-time, I was leaving out of Burbank Airport in Los Angeles where I used to live. And I took Southwest Airlines. I took Southwest Airlines all the time because it was cheap and affordable. And you don't expect celebrities to fly Southwest Airlines, right? But that particular time, I believe I was flying from California to Salt Lake. I happened to be getting on the plane with the late Dick Clark. And I remember thinking, Dick Clark's flying Southwest Airlines. He got himself a deal. And he sat in an aisle seat, and I sat in the aisle seat right across from him, and I looked, and he looked at me, and we had this silent mutual acknowledgement that said, yes, I know you know who I am. Please leave me alone so I can fly in peace. Which I could totally respect, but the girl next to me could not. And this girl, she had the blonde highlights and the tube top and the pierced navel and the short shorts and the chunky shoes and the bright red fingernails, everything that said actress. And so when she looked over and she saw Dick Clark, she let out this mini war whoop. Ah! And she began to ask everyone around her for a pen and a piece of paper. Someone gave her a pen, but no one seemed to be able to access paper. So she was resigned to go to the seat pocket in front of her where she took out the nausea bag. And she began to compose this letter to Dick Clark about her resume, about why he should hire her, and did she have any connections and her agent contact information. And I'm sitting right next to her, and I'm looking and I'm observing this, and I will let you into my world of thought. Oh, please. Seriously? Put the pen down. Put the pen down. You're just going to embarrass yourself. Can't you tell by his body language that he doesn't want to be ignored? And I'm going on, and then all of a sudden I went, whoa. what part of my unfulfilled acting career am I getting in the way here? And as I began to self-examine, I began to look at her, and right in that divine moment, she leaned over to me and she said, "How do you spell incur?" And I said, "Oh, girl, you need help." And I got out my nausea bag. And together, we began to compose the most fabulous letter to Dick Clark about why he should hire her. It was a stellar letter, okay? I kid you not, it was magnificent. If he didn't hire her, he was an idiot. And so we were very satisfied. And she said, "Should I reach over and give it to him now?" And I said, "No." I said, "Let him exit the plane. Let him walk through the jetway so he doesn't feel like a trapped animal. And then when we get off, I think it was Las Vegas, when we get off in Las Vegas, then go up to him and present it to him." She said, "Okay." And oh my God, she couldn't wait. She just couldn't wait. And we very quickly land in Las Vegas. We're exiting the plane. They're walking down the jetway, and there she is with her nausea bag. And she runs up to him in her big chunky shoes, and she presents it to him. And I stand over here to watch. He takes it. He reads the bag. He smiles. He hugs her. He introduces her to his wife. They have this short exchange and dialogue, and then off Miss Chunky Shoes goes, totally, completely fulfilled in having answered that intuitive nudge inside of her. And I'm over here like this. And I can't help myself. All of a sudden, I am caught up in her innocence, and I run over to him. And I say, "I proofread that." I did not receive a hug. But the point of that is this. Where do we not only stand in the way of our why not me, but where now are we standing in the way of other people's why not me? Because of why? Because of our own stuff. Because of our own limited belief. Because we have put ourselves on that back burner. Don't you see that we are a mirror of infinite possibility for one another? You may be sitting there and you may be saying, "But David, you don't understand this and you don't understand that, and I'm this age and this is my story." And I go, I get it. I get it. But you're dealing with the realm of the infinite. And for those of us who call ourselves conscious beings, for those of you, and you all are, you're light bearers, don't you realize that you are the change agent for the 21st century? Don't you get that there's a whole world out there that craves what it is that you desire? For almost 10 years now, I've been traveling back and forth to Cambodia. And what started out as just a routine sacred site travel adventure, where I would take people to see Angkor Wat, which is one of the ancient wonders of the world, has developed, and it's a very long story, which I will be sharing with my Adults of Unity retreat people this week. But what happened, what morphed over those years, was that I began to move from this place of what I call the me to the we. And each of you will be called to do that. Each of us will begin to see that there is no separation. I am that girl in the chunky shoes. You are everyone around you. And when one of us gets it, then it brings the vibration for more to get it. And as I traveled over there and I began to see this immense poverty, and I began to explore and to work with mostly the disenfranchised children, the orphans, and those who are still challenged by the landmines. You know, the landmines that were planted at the very end of the Khmer Rouge in the 1970s were made out of plastic. Now they teach the children to recycle. And when you get into these villages and these fields where they don't know any better and they see plastic, they think, money. And they go and they pick it up and it blows off their arm or their legs. And these are the ones who are just left by the government. There's nothing offered to them. And so these are the children that my school focuses on. And the school has developed through starts and stops, through personal communist interrogation on my part. How exciting for me. You know, where they go, "Who are you working for?" And I'm like, "God." But through years of bureaucratic tape, we now own in our possession the permission of the People's Party of the interior of Cambodia for us to be allowed to teach, to offer free education to any child. And our programs continue to grow, and our projects continue to expand as we offer agricultural skills and life skills and sewing and dance and painting to these children who have absolutely nothing. And each time I go, I carry with me this word, infinite. Everywhere you go, I ask you to carry in your heart the word infinite. You are the vehicle by which the infinite chooses to express. And if you want to go with me, there is no better experience, no more rewarding experience than to come and to explore and to be in these children's lives. To watch as we go into the villages and we dig water wells where there was no fresh water. Because that's the most key thing, right? Can't really do much unless they have sustainable fresh water. And to be there in a 24-hour period, to watch a village, a subset of a little culture off in the barren wasteland, to be able to strike water, and then the next day to go back after the pump has been put down and the cement been placed, and to watch that village for the first time experience water. You realize how blessed we are. You realize how much we have. It's my goal to take every apathetic teenager that exists in America to Cambodia. Because I've already taken a lot of apathetic adults. And they get it. They get it. Each year, year after year now, it has just expanded till this past January when we got back. A dozen people were like, "Do we have to leave?" And most of them have already signed up to go back. And so I'm telling you, you are the vehicle. You are the vehicle and the fanfare by which the infinite chooses to celebrate like the horns of Gabriel the beauty of who you are. Are you ready to own that? Are you ready? There's never been a better time to shed the leaves of your mediocrity off of the tree of your life, right here and right now. So it is. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.